Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. Nick and George here, just catching up.
This is the catch-up episode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've actually seen a lot of horror.
Yeah.
Right? So that was like...
I felt like when we were recording weekly, I watched nothing.
Right.
And now I'm just watching.
Now we're stacked on horror. So I'm excited to talk about a lot of the horror, but we also wanted to play with a new idea that we'll talk about a little later on in the show.
I'm very excited about
it. I'm super excited about it, but I'm also super excited about collaborating with not just like the social media following, but anyone who's listening, because we're going to need help kind of like bringing this one to fruition, because it's bigger than just what two people could do. But anyway, so we had seen a lot of horror. What do you want to start with? Because we saw some in real life, in real theaters, but we also saw some streaming stuff, and if we don't start with this, I gotta tease it now. We have this running joke between us that like every 2 years or so, we just all of a sudden look up and look to each other and we're like, they haven't done a good werewolf movie in a while, have they? And then we go looking for a good werewolf movie, and then we're invariably disappointed if it's anything that was made after Dog Soldiers. So we were like, let's try it again. And then funny news is there's like...
Let's start with that.
Okay.
So we watched... Let's start with...
Do you want to start low or high?
Let's start low. Let's start low and get it out of
I'll fight for this a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, a little bit. So we watched The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And... man, people really like this one, and I wish I did. I just couldn't. I was so mad. I was expecting like this great werewolf movie whodunit, and God.
And what'd you get? Like, explain to me, because I also disliked the movie at the time. Although, like I told you, after it actually really grew on me after the watch, but it was very frustrating during the watch, which is a weird experience. But
it grew on me. Like,
it did grow on you. You hate this movie.
No, it did. It grew like a little.
Oh, okay.
But like,
but you were so mad. We were both mad. But I want to. So where it fascinates me because I moved from my initial position so much. But you're still around the initial position. So what did you end up with? It was just badly acted. This bad story. Bad.
I just didn't care for it. Like I couldn't get into like any of the characters or. And it had Robert Foster. Robert.
Yeah, it had Robert Foster. They got from Jackie Brown and all of the other amazing things he's done. Yeah. Matter of fact, it was dedicated to him. I think it might have been his final film. And he's an amazing actor. He was actually amazing in it. But go ahead.
Well, the initial premise of werewolf in said village or town, or sorry,
it was
Hollow.
30 Days a Night wolf style, right? I think that wasn't that.
Well, not really wolf style, but
right, yeah, okay. But proceed
as we discovered,
right?
No, so like I was telling you earlier, we actually had like a really great phone conversation where I like nailed all the problems I had with it, and I forget all of them, except no. I remember some of them.
That's what the podcast is for.
Okay, yeah. So
to tell you about the great conversations we had.
A couple days. You guys, you missed it. You should have been on our. Should have been on our private phone call. Yeah. No, so like one of the problems that I had with it was like, and it's not like I'm not trying to compare it to this, but like when you look at a movie that's titled after like a town.
Yes.
Like Sleepy Hollow.
Right.
Or what was that Dark Knight? Well, that's not the name of the town. I just didn't
like Sleepy Hollow, Gotham, all the like fictional towns that have atmosphere.
Yeah.
Even in 30 Days a Night, Barrow, the town, you know where you are. You're right.
My biggest thing was I didn't feel like I knew like the Snow Hollow.
You didn't like the place. Right.
Area.
Right.
No. And I remember not like really connected to it. I didn't think like there was a lot of texture there. And
I agree with that almost entirely. Although I think you missed the setup to the best like assault or kill scene in the movie because you were out of the room. You were like in the kitchen or whatever when it started. But I think that but that was the most kind of evocative of the town. And I don't even think you saw it, but it wasn't that long. And you're right. They did not establish that place commensurate to what you would think if it's in the title of a movie. Right. Yeah. I agree. I still agree. I by the way, spoilers for this because we're gonna have to. Oh God, the cat is attacking Nick.
Crazy daredevil.
Sorry about that. We have a cat loose.
He leaped from George's knee to my knee.
Cat people.
Full claws.
Full claws out. There's going to be spoilers because I hated the ending and still hate the ending. Absolutely hate. Thought it was just like unbelievably poorly executed. Why don't we do this? Because I think I have a better memory of it, and I don't want to spend too long on this movie. I'm more excited about the other movies we're going to talk about. So, but just real quick, the fight for it part of this to me was, first of all, Robert Forster was great. Second of all, until the reveal, the werewolf design was actually really good.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
The villain was super creepy when they came to the taxidermist and the looks he was getting and the angles he was being shot at. He was legitimately unnerving. Like he was like it was weird. He gave me the vibe like if Slender Man ever really was scary, if it had ever been really good, and it could have looked like this guy or moved like this guy or acted like this guy. So I really liked that part about it. I also thought the movie was pretty daring, but the thing that drove me absolutely batshit crazy about this movie in hatred was for some reason they decided they just had to make the main character's story and his relationship with his dad meaningful. He had to explain why he was so depressed over and over again. He had to explain why he didn't have healthy relationships over and over again. He had to explain like whatever. And it just it felt if
that's Louis. That's Louis everyone.
Louis on the podcast. It felt not just unnecessary but like for no point. Like because I didn't see how it fit into anything else that was happening in the movie. And I love shit like that. Like that's the entire idea behind my favorite, mainstream American horror film, which is Cat People, is that movie is working as a really complex, high-level metaphor. And so I dig that, but it did not work here at all. That character was just awful.
Yeah, I will say the thing I did because like I said earlier, like I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I thought he did have some pretty funny parts.
There was some humor for sure.
Like when he and the only thing I really gave it credit for was I thought the reveal of who was in the werewolf suit, murdering people, was really good. I thought that shot
was good.
That shot was creepy, and I also liked his response to it when the guy stands up and he's like 7 feet tall. He's like, "God, that's what I thought." And then
that was amazing.
He knew what he had to do. Like that was the best part of the movie, in my opinion. But
I agree, but see, the thing is that feeling and that smile you just got on your face saying that, like that feeling. I actually had that feeling in like 5 or 6 islands in that movie. Right. You just didn't get that feeling anywhere else.
I just got the one.
Which is fair. I mean, that's how it happens. All right. We got to move past this movie. But anyway, it's a weird experience because to me, it was a movie that was super frustrating and aggravating in a lot of parts watching it and then really grew on me afterwards. I can't explain it. It's kind of like what happened to Personal Shopper if I didn't like Personal Shopper when I watched it. But I love Personal Shopper. I watched it. So,
that's a great movie.
So, anyway. All right. But now werewolf movie number 2 is Werewolves Within. But
that was great.
Run with tell me anything you want to tell me about this because you can't go wrong anywhere in this movie, really, right?
No, it was like all around, like really great.
Right.
The werewolf design in this one, I think, wasn't as good as the other one. Funny enough, but I still thought it did
the lowest mark for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really only see it. Spoilers. You only see the werewolf like full transformation like once at the end. So the rest of it is them like getting murdered or him not even or it not doing anything.
Right, and it feels like it's a Knives Outy kind of feel mixed with horror. Right.
They really did because like that's one of the things about the werewolf movies, like who's the werewolf, and the Snow Hollow, I thought did a decent job at it. I thought this did a better job at it. Like this one, everyone has a reason as to why or why not they could or could not be the werewolf. It was. I thought it was really well written. The comedy in it's hilarious.
It was much funnier. Like
way funnier.
Truly hilarious movie, right? See, this is one of those movies that just feels like a really solid B to me all the way through. Like it's just really good all the way through. Not great anywhere, but really good all the way through. Like Tucker and Dale, I think, achieves greatness in some parts.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think this gets quite to that level. It's not like What We Do in the Shadows. This is not that. But this is, like, really good all the way through. Like, and I appreciate that because I feel like a lot of the content we watched during the onset of the pandemic and maybe even before it, during this whole process, has been, like, wildly inconsistent. Like, great movie, terrible movie, or a movie that's great here and then terrible here and then great again here. Like, just really up and down. This movie is just really good, really fun, really well done in all of its parts all the way through, which I appreciate.
It's shot well. The atmosphere is great. It is. Because it's more snowy than Snow Hollow.
It's true.
I mean, there's a lot of, like, really good shots. Like, it actually reminded me of, like, Donkey Kong Country. There's a few ice, like, snow levels, and the snow is like those big thick snowflakes, you know, like and the movie has a lot of shots like that, and I think I always think snow is like the best, like, production value looking that you can add to anything. Like, it just makes everything look so much more goddamn cool. Like,
think about 30 Days of the Night without snow.
Think about Batman Returns not in Christmas time. Like, that's
it sucks.
Right? Yeah, but so it looks really, really great too. The editing was the dude who I met at the premiere of Cooties.
Yes,
that guy's got a resume.
Yeah, it turned out.
Because he did, like, Mandy. Mm-hmm. I think he did.
Yeah, you said a bunch of stuff that we like.
Bunch of shit. Brett Bachman, I think his name is, and the editing in this is really good and really funny. They do a lot of what were we talking about? We were talking about it with Garen when Garen came. Whenever in Hail Caesar they say the movie, you hear an eagle in the background. Yep. There's a lot of little bits of that in Werewolves Within that I thought was really well done.
Yeah, the biggest compliment I can pay this movie is that at some point I turned to you and said that this really reminds me in its tone of Housebound, because I love Housebound, and if you haven't seen Housebound, it's like a really incredible horror comedy. I mean, almost maybe as good as Tucker and Dale, but just really funny, but, like, sort of unpredictable. And I felt like that was, you got to have some swagger to go in and make a movie like this and think that we're not going to figure out in advance what's going on. But this movie was so sure of itself, right? Which was good.
I really like how I don't know how to describe it. Like, it kind of gave me, like, what I wanted to happen.
Yes.
Like, I guess we'll just
like
go
the first Happy Death Day. Like, you can't, when it's over, you're like, yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yeah. Then the second one.
But go
ahead. So I'll just go into some, like, spoilers here. But, like, at the end, you have your lead and then, like, the weird cabin guy who was the main villain in True Detective season 1, and that guy's just insanely talented.
So good.
Like, I wanted them both to live, and then it went to that part in a horror movie where, you know, like, someone else might die, or they might try to squeak in one more body count.
Yep.
And then they didn't, and you sort of got this happy ending with, like, these two characters, and I'm really glad they did that, because I'm kind of tired of being bummed. It's nice to have a fun.
Yeah, me too.
Horror film.
That was, like, that's what makes me so angry. I get it. Don't message us, for God's sakes. I Cabin in the Woods, like, by the time it was over, I was really interested in, so, like, when two interesting people get together, they create something that doesn't exist before they get together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whatever it is, a conversation between them, a child, like, whatever, they're gonna, the interchange of two interesting people leads to something interesting that didn't exist. We were just there with the Cabin in the Woods characters, and they ended the world.
Yeah.
Right? And we were just there with these two people. It's legitimately interesting to wonder what's going to happen to them next. And what do they say to each other? And if they'd killed them, or one of them.
What do you think of the relationship between the two leads?
That's what I mean, right? Like, that, it felt to me like they each had a really powerful quirk. Even though the quirks don't line up to each other, they're going to make it line up. It works for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I thought. Well, before you find out the thing, we're just going into spoilers now.
Yeah, let's do it. Spoil the hell out of it.
I thought the mail lady and the ranger lined up pretty perfectly. Yes. So I really kind of like.
Yeah,
her.
but he So that's what I mean is he has a sort of deep flaw
yeah,
as a character, right?
Well, yeah, his was he kept answering the wife and he kept being kind of anonymous about why he moved there.
Right, though, yeah, the answering the call was ridiculous. But no, I mean that he was really kind of weirdly obsessive, and it was off-putting to the other people around him. Like, they knew that he was kind of over the top, right? As a person, like with how like Boy Scouty he was.
He was very Boy Scouty,
right? Like, or is it just me?
No, he was definitely very Boy Scouty.
It felt like he had to be Boy Scouty, like it was something that he was going to do.
Yeah, he was very good-hearted. That was his whole
right, and that you were going to know about it. He's one of those people where if he's in your life, if he's a friend of yours, you know he's a good person. You know today he was a good person, and he lets you know that he was a good person today.
Yeah,
right. He's one of those people, right? Like he had that thing, and and she has one of those things as well, and it feels like they kind of understand each other because they're made the same. Is my point.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, now that I'm just sitting here thinking about the movie, I just really liked the setting of it. I thought that little hotel or inn, whatever you call it, I thought was really like I felt like I knew the place.
Yep.
Which was my biggest complaint about Snow Hollow.
Totally. Yeah. No. Excellent movie and not scary at all, but really really funny. So like pretty, legitimately funny.
Was it gory or I don't remember much.
I mean, it had some good what you would call action scenes, I guess, but it wasn't. It never got scary in the way that like a movie so if you think about a movie that's like similarly like a well made all the way through but not great, like Life, remember with the Ryan Reynolds movie, that movie's really good, not great because it's too derivative, but it's really good in parts, right? But there are scenes in that movie that are terrifying. Mm-hmm. There's a scene that's really hard to watch, and then there's another scene that's actually really scary, right? So nothing in this movie is scary to any of that level, right?
No, but it is hilarious.
It is hilarious all the way through, and it's not boring, and there's really good action, and they don't pull back on the gore where gore makes sense. It's just that it was never meant to be scary. I don't think this movie tried to be scary.
But it is nice to have something that is consistently funny.
Totally.
Because it's been a while since like something came out that's just like laugh after laugh.
Absolutely.
Like when the dog died and he ran into the bells and he was like, "She got its wings." Like that part was. Everyone was saying like they think it's like the best movie of the year like, they've seen. Like, is it?
No. I mean, no.
I don't know what I would say the best movie of the year is. Like,
I'm gonna make myself mad saying this out loud, but I have a feeling that a couple of years from now, when all of these have faded from my memory, if I come across Werewolves Within and Wolf of Snow Hollow streaming, I would probably rewatch parts of Wolf of Snow Hollow before I did Werewolves Within, just because I feel like Werewolves Within was fun once. It's the way I feel about A Quiet Place. I don't think I'm ever going to watch A Quiet Place again.
I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? And Quiet Place is great, but like I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again. Why would I watch it again? I might watch like the nail scene again, or I might watch like
for fun,
like a scene. Well, to break it down, like how they pull it off, like right.
Exactly. That made my butt cheeks.
Like right, that's exactly.
Yeah,
it's a memorable scene, right? Sometimes it's fun to take those apart, but like that's how there's some movies that are really well done, like Zodiac, where I'm like, oh my god, I gotta watch. I'm gonna have to watch this like 4 times before I feel satisfied, right? But like Quiet Place, I'm like, I watched it once, it was great. And I'll never watch that again, right? And that's how I feel about Werewolves Within, and that's not how I feel about Wolves of Snow Hollow. I still have questions.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think that no,
but it's good.
I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, but it's a good movie. All right, so do you want to talk about our seeing movies in real life at all? Or do you want to?
Yeah.
Or what else do we have?
Well, I just want to quickly throw out Fear Street 1994.
Fuck yeah, go ahead.
Was pretty bad
because I didn't see that. Oh,
it was not, dude. Alex and I watched it together, and I thought she would really dig it because it's a teen slasher film, and like, oh, by the way, for the listeners, they have a book deal that went through. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Oh, we should
before because like it's official. Yeah, Alex and Rebecca got their book deal, so their book Horror Hotel is available for pre-order on Amazon. And
is it available for pre-order now?
Yeah, it's available for pre-order now.
You're going to be seeing a lot of this on Hello Weekly.
But even so, I highly recommend you go and pre-order, obviously. But even if you don't, at least go look at the artwork.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
There was an artist, and I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but he did a really if you're in the Hollow Weekly group, you've definitely seen this, but he did a commission for an Exorcist like poster, just like a reimagining of the poster, and there's like skulls like kind of hidden everywhere, and it's very, very scary. And if you Google like Exorcist fan poster, I think that's how it comes up sometimes. Find that one. That cat did the artwork for this book, and
you could sort of tell, actually.
Yeah, you could definitely see. It wasn't until I looked at them both together, I was like, oh shit, this guy's got like a skull theme going on, because I never really
because that cover is so good. Like there's only like a tier of authors like Stephen King, Paul Tremblay, maybe like Joe Hill, like whatever. And then everything else in every other thing tier looks designed a certain way. All their covers look the same.
There was that video we've talked about.
Right.
We watched.
Right. And then there's just that top tier where it looks different, right? This looks like that's them. I got so excited for them. I'm like, oh my God, it looks like the guy who does Joe Hill's book covers did your cover.
That
cover is so good.
It is a fantastic
holy shit
cover. Yeah. So go pre-order, or at the very
least.
We'll
put the pre-order link in the show notes.
Yeah, look at that cover. It is really amazing. So anyways, we had watched Fear Street 1994.
Yes.
And if you want to watch a movie...
Wait, hold on. I just want to give context to this. So you're a huge Goosebumps fan, not so much a Fear Street fan.
No, I never really knew of it.
Right. Not Fear Street, right?
No.
But you knew Goosebumps.
Knew Goosebumps.
But and Alex knew Goosebumps as well, but not really Fear Street.
She did know Fear Street.
Oh, she did know Fear Street. Okay, so all right, so she knew Fear Street better than you, but you're going into this like being really familiar kind of with what it is.
Also,
and then
hyped.
But then also you guys are huge Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark fans.
Yes, right, 1,000%.
So
that's how we met.
Right,
talking.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So like that's what I'm saying. So I think the context of your take on Fear Street makes it so much interesting, because this is where you're coming from. Like you potentially could be a huge fan of this.
Yeah, and we couldn't have hated it more. And so to be fair though, I haven't seen the second one, which apparently is getting great.
I heard it's way better than the first.
Yeah, and then the third one comes out tomorrow. So
yeah, it's like moving fast,
really fast. God damn, if we didn't care at all about these characters, like the relationship didn't feel real. The rivals between, like, they had this cool like school rival thing happening that they completely dropped off. If you want to watch a movie where the cast sits down after getting chased by a monster and then explains to you what they need to do, this is the movie for you. They do that 5 fucking times throughout the movie. Like, they get chased, they go to a door, and they're like, oh, it's as if we need to go back to the grave and return the cross and then say a prayer and then shoot the bitch in the face. And you're like, what? Why are they? And then they run somewhere else, and they're like, it's almost as if we need to go to the doctor's office, get a prescription. You're like, oh my God, could you just do it? Like, could you just do it? And so this movie, I will say, this movie has a lot of, and this is why I do want to check out the other two. There's a lot of cool creatures, like monsters in it. Like there's a guy with an axe. There's this one woman from the 50s who like stabs people, who this one guy thinks is just real smoking hot. There's there's some cool.
You're making this sound like Mystery Science Theater bad. It could be fun bad.
I think it was, but everyone online was like teen horror forever, and I'm like, yeah, but not that.
No, wait. So let me say something potentially important,
okay,
and then go back because I gotta backtrack to what you just said. The potentially important thing is, so I strangely, I heard NPR's like always, kind of elite like take on everything, so you don't expect them to like horror. They rarely do, to be honest, right? But both reviewers they brought to the weekend roundup thing were asked about Fear Street, and it was the second one. They had watched the first and the second, and I expected them to hate it because you had already told me you hate it, and I figured their standards are way higher than yours for this shit, because you love like some YA horror. You love Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they didn't, right?
No.
So I was like, well, they're going to hate it more than you. And they were like, this is great. I was like, what? And then they were like, but we'll warn you, you do not try to watch the second movie without having seen the first movie. You have to see the first movie to enjoy the second movie. So
that's unfortunate.
Right. I know, but I feel like I'm inferring from that the first movie might have been like an hour and 10 of setup. for what's happening in the rest, right? It's not like Lord of the Rings where each was smart enough to figure out how to be standalone. So maybe all the good stuff comes in
later,
you
like this was the sacrifice.
Right. So that I just wanted to say that, but then I'm going to take it all back by going, when you messaged me or called me or whatever happened to tell me that you had watched it, and then you explained to me why you hated it, I was laughing even harder than I was laughing 5 minutes ago when you just did it again, sort of. And I was like, I will never forgive a movie this badness. Whatever that kind of badness is, I can't forgive. I don't care if it's all set up. Because that particularly bothers me when a movie is explaining to me over and over again what's already showing me, or re-explaining.
I would have had more respect.
I get so mad.
I would have had more respect if there was a scene where the main character looks directly at the camera and says, "Listen, dumb, this is what we're doing. You got that? You fucking idiot. You pig boy." With your popcorn, oink oink. This is what we're doing, piss boy. Like, I would have been like, you know what? Thank you.
On board.
I would have been like, thank you.
I like the abuse.
At least you're being honest. But then the movie had like,
but you're gonna give the second one a chance. So there was enough in there.
No, there was nothing in there. No. There was nothing in there. I'm just giving the second one a chance because I got a weekend free. I'm not. The first one did, the second one no favors.
Wow, you hate this with integrity, like
I like that. It was not good. So
this is my favorite part of this episode.
So then they have rules. So this woman this girl, they're high schoolers, right? So they get blood on some other people, and the monsters are chasing people with blood on them. This girl's blood on them.
Okay.
Right, except one of them goes to the hospital, and then this boy that's there, like I think he's dating the girl, but like the two girls are like in love, like that, like but they're supposed to be. But she moved 30. There's a line where she goes, "Oh, we were dating, but you moved 30 minutes away." I'm like, what the fuck is 30 minutes away? Just aren't you guys are in high school? Just fucking drive, meet each other halfway. Guess what? That's 15 minutes away.
That's interesting. Actually, I wonder that you're making me like this movie, because maybe there's like a radius for relationships. Like you could just do that with your relationships at home. You could be like, I'll take my top 3 friends. Like if they moved, what's my breaking point? An hour and 10? Like hour and 10.
Hour and 10's too much.
Hour and 10, exactly. About 48 minutes. When
Alex and I started dating, still friends. She was 50 minutes away. I'm like, 50 minutes is fine. An hour. Okay, well
this movie invented the radius. Yeah, you got to give it that.
It's the radius. Yeah. So apparently the monsters were only chasing the kids if they had the blood that got splattered on them from this girl. But then there's a
shocking twist.
But earlier in the movie, very shocking. But early in the movie, the monsters kill like 3 people who had not one drop of blood on them. So either the monsters are killing the people who have, the traces of this girl's blood on them who was cursed by the witch, or they're just killing people at all. That was a big problem for me, because it was like, and people were saying, oh, the death scenes were so great. The death scenes were just okay.
That's interesting. So the internet is for this movie, is what you're telling me.
The internet's on crack cocaine.
Yeah. So the internet's for this movie, but they're one of the arguments for the movie is that it has got great kill scenes.
It's got 2 great kill scenes. Okay. And it's only got 1 great kill scene. And it's when this is the other problem with the movie. They killed off the 2 most interesting characters at the end. And it wasn't even like
we just talked about this.
Yeah, but it wasn't even
do that.
It wasn't even like a cool payoff
at
the end. Like it wasn't like, oh my god, like they just died because they're like, we needed
they killed everyone in the descent, but it made sense. There was a payoff for that.
Yeah, this was just like, well, why did you kill him at the fucking end? Like, I didn't care about any of these characters, and the 2 characters I did care about, you killed at the end. I don't give a flying fuck about anyone else in the movie. But the one girl who dies, her death is pretty cool because she gets her head pushed through a bread slicer.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, and then the other boy, he gets like a axe to the head. Pickaxe to the head or something like that. But then so these kids, and I think it was Alexandra West from Faculty of Horror. Yeah. She was like, I missed the part. I think you sent me that tweet she posted where she was like, I think I missed that part in my life where in my teens or my life was in mortal danger like every 30 minutes or something like that. But then so these kids have these monsters chasing them, right? And they save they save the day. Right. Oh, and by the way, so the main girl has this little brother who is smart as a whip. Like he is sharp.
That's
he actually,
they're useful.
He actually looked into like he's into like horror and like the paranormal and like all the like dark shit, right?
Perfect.
So he has pretty much the whole fucking thing mapped out on his wall.
Nice.
Like the town's history. He goes every couple years this happens. Like
he's the one who knows.
He's
the Van Helsing.
Which would have been if they had actually like played him more as a Van Helsing, that would have been badass. But he was also one of my favorites. There's really only like 3 people. He figures out what's happening. He pretty much game plans everything.
I love him.
And they go through like a fucking night of just pure terror of monsters trying to kill them and successfully killing like 2 of their best friends. Right? They go home and he orders a pizza and the sister's like, "Did you order a pizza all by yourself?" Yeah, he fucking did. He also did the research. He
also was the General Patton of this operation.
He also saved most of us. So ordering a pizza.
So the movie isn't even aware of what its own characters are doing.
Did you pick up a phone and say you wanted 1 large pepperoni pizza? Like, yeah, that's not a
So
that's
they
not
Home Aloned it. They're like, Kevin, did you?
Yeah, but if Kevin was like a sorcerer, like just a smart person, so that pissed me off.
You know what's funny is how much you hate this movie, because in our podcast dynamic, it's good to be back. In our podcast dynamic is you're like there's that podcast Left, Right, Center, and the guy who introduces it always like, you know, I'm your center. Every week I host the show, and then on the left represents the left side of the political, and on the right they have a right. So they have 3 hosts, right? Like of ours, if we did positive, negative, you would be positive, I would be the negative. But you hate this movie.
No, in fact, I think
it is. I don't think I've ever heard you hate a movie as much as this movie.
It was a big letdown. Like if you want to see a movie where kids run away from a bunch of monsters that come from book source material, like watch Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It did what this movie wanted to do. A trillion times,
which I really liked, and I don't tend to like YA horror. So, like the fact that I liked that movie I was like, well, maybe this one will do it too.
Well, also,
and maybe the other ones do. I mean, there are 2 more coming.
Yeah, that is true. But this is just
we'll catch up next week
for 1994. Yeah. But the other thing is it wasn't scary at all. It wasn't scary at all, and I think it was also. I also think it had an R rating, whereas Scary Stories was, I think, PG-13, and there was far more frightening stuff. Like I think that room.
Yeah, there were a couple things where you could see how it would be scary in Scary Stories. You could give it a chance. Although they, for some reason, Harold wasn't.
Hey, I didn't give a shit about Harold. That thing in the room where every time you turned around it was closer, and then the jangly man.
Yep.
Like that scene.
We talked about how good that was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are.
I agree. If this movie had anything that scary in it, it would be succeeding. Right?
Yeah, and like that's the like. It looks like 74, I think, is the other one. It looks like the setting's going to be like classic slasher, like camp counselors and that kind of stuff.
Well, if you honestly, the funny thing here is we're going to hate this, but if you map this to the opinion of like some horror consensus of, you know, horror was scary in the 80s, but really sucked in the 90s and then just got worse after that, right? Mm-hmm. But the 70s and the 80s were where it was at. Well, if Fear Street does 3 entries and the best one, it gets scarier as it goes back in time, because it goes to the 80s and then the 70s.
No, it goes from 90s, it goes right? 90s. No. It goes 90s, 17, and then the 1666.
Oh, so it goes way back.
Way back, yeah.
Right. So, but the horror theory is the further back you go, the scarier it gets. So maybe this is going to map to that, right? Maybe this will be like.
I think that'd be.
It'll be accidentally like you know how horror fans would expect it to go.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I am going to watch the second one.
Yeah, I'm excited to catch up and then talk about it next week.
I've heard that the second one is better.
We'll see.
And the third one is it should be about the witch, which I think this whole thing sort of revolves around.
Right.
And
right, of course.
I'm always down for like witch horror films
if they do it well, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, one of the most underrated horror films of the whole last century was Witchfinder General. Like, if you get that setting right, you can make a great movie.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, speaking of, because your expectations going into Fear Street were part of your experience of Fear Street, and my expectations of how much you were going to love it were part of why I thought it was so hilarious how much you hated it, because I was sure after you told me you were going to watch it with Alex that you guys were going to tell me it was great, and then we all
that's what I thought.
We all had to watch it. Like, that's where I thought this was headed, and then you telling me how much the movie kept telling you like over and over again, like how to think. I was like, this is hilarious. So we're playing with this idea for either a segment for the podcast or limited series, whatever, but we want to figure out how to sort of map what it means, your expectations going into watching a horror movie, you know, primarily, but any kind of like dark themed or movie really, but compared to what your experiences of it is, both in real time and then maybe as you rewatch it and grow with it, right? Because it's a difference in the expectations. What we find again and again is conversations on our Facebook group or with the good people we reviewers we like. Actually, there's a really good documentary or podcast series, I think, coming out about the history of the relationship between Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah.
which is interesting, right? So
is it there's a documentary coming out?
It's a podcast series, like the Apollo one I love.
Ooh.
It's going to be like that, but it's going to be about, you know, Siskel and Ebert.
I like that.
Yeah, the history and their impact and all that stuff, because that's a really interesting subject, right? But like, whether you see it in the reading of it or you in the fan base itself, or you're at a horror convention and people, you're just talking and you're like, you know, I oh my God, I thought, you know, I was expecting the Nightmare on Elm Street remake to be great. I mean, you know, and like, and your expectations of something compared to how the result of it is really impacts how you feel a movie.
Right.
But we do episodes all the time and we have these conversations all the time, but we never track to see if there's a pattern to how this works. Mm-hmm. Like, are there certain movies or certain directors who pull this off over and over? You know, like how Hitchcock could always be suspenseful. I have a feeling like Carpenter could always like let down expectations and then over time beat the shit out of the expectations. Right. Because a lot of his work just wasn't understood when it happened. He's a weird one though, because Halloween's like one of the biggest hits of all time in terms of profit. But The Thing and Christine were disappointing and in real time, right? And turned out to be amazing movies.
Yeah.
Later, but maybe a lot of what those audiences expected is how it was a big part of how that played out. So it's just a really interesting subject, but we were like, we got to track this now, right? So we want to know how you feel about how expectations play into, and do you notice that it works a certain way in certain genres or certain kind of movies or with certain directors or actors who always beat your expectations or, you know, fail your expectations? Like, I feel like there's certain people in the world who are meant for this subject. I feel like an Adam Sandler is meant for this kind of topic, right? Because like my expectations of an Adam Sandler movie have a definite like bias to them, right? And when he pulls like a Punch Drunk Love or a Uncut Gems on me, like part of how I feel about that movie walking out of the theater is what I thought I was going to get from Adam Sandler going into the theater, right? Whereas there's other actors where, like, I feel like with Bruce Campbell, if Bruce Campbell's involved in something, like Ash vs. Evil Dead, if you think back in the midst of time when that was first coming out, like, that's sort of a risky venture trying to pull off a franchise that has so few entries that are so loved by all of its fan base, including us, right? And to try to play that out over a TV series, get that tone right, update it, compete with what's happening now, not have it feel dated or played out. Like, that wasn't guaranteed to succeed. No. But I felt like all of us were like, when they did the first image of Bruce Campbell there, we're like, oh, this is going to be great. Because, that's not interesting. He's just that he's always great, and we always expect him to be great, and he just always is great. Even if he's just making a cameo, he's great. Like, he's not interesting on the expectation-o-meter, right? But like Adam Sandler is. Am I making any sense?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, because when we were talking yesterday, we were talking of like the different layers of expectation. That there are, and I think it was Nate our friend Nate, who was telling me about composing music horizontally, and so a lot of people look at it, vertically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, here's the beginning of the song, here's the end of the song, but look at it in chunks horizontally, and what layers can you add to it? And I think there's a lot that, because if we want to try to track expectations, I think there's a lot of different points in which its score and is affected.
It's different than you. It's hard. So like we were just talking before we started recording this, we were talking about the Delta variant, because I had seen it in the news and like whatever, and I was like, what's interesting is that the Delta variant, we keep saying it's like it's one thing, but it's actually 5. It's 5 mutations. We're just calling it by one name, right? Like you're saying, expectation is like 5 important pieces.
I think it's like 30.
Right, right, exactly. And part of how the fun of this will be figuring out which parts of those are important and which parts aren't important. Because I think you're totally right. Like one big example of that is it's not just the expectation of what the content is, right? Like if you tell me there's a new, like when I'll give you the perfect example of this to me, right? When Mank was coming out, I knew exactly what to think of that, like a black and white movie on that subject from that director. Like, I know exactly what that kind of movie should be like, right? Like, that movie can't take me by surprise.
Right.
Because you just know by this point that's going to be a certain way, right? So that's the content, right? But what if I went to a theater and saw that movie with a crowd that reacted a certain way, and I had a certain great thing happen to me that morning, whatever, and then, I was in a particularly good mood, and I saw the movie with the right crowd, the atmosphere and the weather was right. Like, is that different or not? Because I feel like it has been different for me. It's played into my expectations.
I think it's different every movie. And I think also where you're at mentally and physically in life is another thing that affects it. Like, I remember my expectations going into Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
right,
and then exceeding my expectations, and then me wanting to go and start learning VFX, which is eventually like part of the reason why I moved out to LA.
Right, it impacted your life.
Yeah. So it exceeded my expectations, and like I remember where I was at in my life at that time.
That's so interesting.
But like if Scott Pilgrim came out today, I would probably still really much enjoy it, but I think
it wouldn't hit that way.
No, it probably wouldn't hit the same way. So,
but something else could hit that way now.
So like now,
but it just wouldn't be Scott Pilgrim.
No. And so like right now, the only movie I have high anticipation for right now is The Green Knight.
Right.
And so what I guess I'll do for the show is I'll just sort of sit down and like.
Yeah, we both should do this, but we could do right now just The Green Knight thing. My two, of the big movies coming out, I think the most on my radar are Green Knight and Dune. I'm interested in how both of those come out. Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So what do you expect The Green Knight to be?
I expect The Green Knight to blow my fucking socks off.
And you're basing that on what?
Just and to be completely honest with you, I don't know where the obsession came from. Like I remember when they announced it, I remember the idea of it was cool. Like you challenge this guy, you whoop his ass, and he's like, "Unfortunately, I'm going to come back and murder all you." And you're like, or murder you. And I'm like, okay, that's a cool concept. Didn't hear anything about the movie.
And you saw this a long time ago. This movie has been massively delayed.
Yeah, I think COVID really messed it up. Or it's just one of those movies where they announce it super early.
Right, but you heard about it a long time ago.
Yeah, and that concept like really ingrained in me. And then the trailer came out, and it was wonderful.
So you were excited about it on the concept. Then a year passed, and then the trailer came out, and the trailer was good enough.
No, the trailer was great.
To make you the trailer actually made your expectations either to stay the same.
It just sort of like woke them up. Like remember, this is where you're at, and we'll find out in like 2 weeks if it.
That's awesome.
If it does, and so I guess I'll just sort of like sit down and journal like why, because I feel like there's a lot of reasons, because like the story's about this guy, going to him and being like, let's fucking like.
Well, but you're taking a big chance on this one, right? Like that, because you don't have a very large sample set to go from about whether you're going to like this movie or not, because the overriding elephant in the room thing about this movie is it's set in olden times,
I think
it's going to be an olden times movie. So like there are very few olden times horror movies that so you don't know, like that's a big deal, right? Like,
yeah, no,
right,
yeah,
right. Like
not wrong.
Like they got to entertain you for 2 hours with no cars, no guns, no like right like
Day 24.
So yeah, but that's interesting. Like, you're so confident that that's going to be because that's a risky kind of movie to make and try to pull off. Fans, the horror fan community is split as far as I can tell exactly in half about The Witch, and The Witch, which is palpably one of the best horror movies of the last 20 years or so. I just made half the audience mad, right? But like the audience is really divided. But most of the objection to The Witch is it's not scary / boring, and the reason it's not scary / boring is because it thinks it's all interesting by talking all fancy and like whatever, but it's just boring because there's just goats and wheat and like whatever, all the shit you're about to see a lot more of in this movie you're looking forward to.
I like that. Well, there's a lot of like fantasy in this one too, like
there is.
Big giants and like wolves talking and
it's like
that.
Beowulfy, right? For sure.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna dig that. Now what's funny is, so I have high expectations for Green Knight.
Yes.
One movie that's coming out or sequel that I never really it didn't hit me like it did everyone else, and maybe it's because I didn't know what to expect when you redo a film's history like 40 years later. But I think I sort of have mid-tier expectations for Halloween Kills.
Okay. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about this. Right.
Yeah, because the trailer came out, and I think the idea for the trailer of them all sort of being like, you know what, fuck this, let's go. Like
Frankenstein mobbing it.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting.
Sure.
But I wasn't like super blown away by Halloween 2018. So
right.
What could happen though with that dynamic is, say Green Knight doesn't knock my socks off, but then Halloween
right.
Kills.
No, we got we got to do this right now. It won't take any time. We got to just do this on we can make this fancier, but we got to do it on a scale. So yours on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being like your expectations going into Halloween 2018 were what?
7.
And you walked out of the theater thinking
5.
Okay, so it let you down by 2 notches, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now your expectation about Halloween Kills based on the trailer are what?
I would say 7.
So 7 again.
7, yeah.
Okay, just like the last movie.
Yeah.
So if this movie is better than a 5, it beats the last movie.
Yeah.
On your expectations. That's why I'm saying that's the interesting part, right?
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying we got to do now. All right, now your expectation for Green Knight is what?
8.
Okay. So it's an 8. That's surprising me. I thought it'd be higher. Okay, because we can do 0.5s. But
okay, 8.5, because that's what I originally said in my head.
Okay. So yeah, let's do 0.5 because I think that makes it more interesting.
Okay.
So if it's an 8.5, because I think you're really hyped for this movie.
Yeah.
Right? So all right. So it's got to really do well to get like whatever. Now, what I just want to do one off the top of my head. What was your expectation level, if you can remember, going into Hereditary?
Oh, 9.5.
It was.
Yeah.
You knew going in you were going to love that movie. I didn't know anything about Hereditary.
Well, I
watched it blind. I didn't know anything. I didn't expect it to be like that was his first movie, right? Or is that his second movie?
He did a ton of short films.
Right, but that was his first. I wasn't aware of him, so that was my introduction to him, and he blew my mind. It was like that movie is my Sixth Sense, like that. It hit me the way the Sixth Sense hit people because Sixth Sense didn't hit me that way. But I found Hereditary interesting and terrifying, and came out of nowhere.
Well, they had all those trailers saying like this generation's Exorcist. So
yeah, but they all trailers say that. Like
but there was something about there was something about that trailer. Like when they said it, they meant it.
Right. Like, see, that's the interesting thing is that you smelled that out. I missed it because I just all movies claim that now. So I just I tuned that out, and then I went in being like I didn't even know what to expect from this movie. I didn't know what it was about going into it. So it blew my mind. Right. But
yeah.
But but you knew going in, so that's not interesting because you knew going into Hereditary that you were going to love it. Okay.
Didn't they also have the marketing piece of people's heart rate during the movie come out? Wasn't that
for Hereditary?
For Hereditary,
I feels like a Paranormal Activity thing to me. Maybe they did.
I thought they did it for Hereditary.
I must have missed all Hereditary's marketing. I don't know how.
I could be wrong, but like I remember even when it played at like the film festivals, I forget which ones. If it was like Cons or what's the other one?
Well, South by Southwest or whatever.
Whatever the fuck. When I remember when it was playing in those, like people were like, "This is very scary." They were
interesting. Like, see, I saw like I got that. That was my experience of The Witch coming, because The Witch trailer scared the hell out of everybody.
Yeah.
Like no. It took time for everyone to turn on this movie. It had to come out, and then people had to, right. But like before it came out, pretty much I think most people were excited about it because the trailer was authentically terrifying. It was legendary, right? So like I was pretty excited about it because I mean my favorite writer Shakespeare. So I'm not going to be intimidated by like that setting.
Yeah.
Right? So like I was fine. I was like, I like Salem witch trial stuff. I like whatever. This will be good. So. Probably my expectation for The Witch was 8 going into it, right? So really? I was there. I was where you were with Hereditary going.
Where'd you leave?
10 off the scale. It's my favorite. Wow. It's my favorite recent horror movie. It's the only horror movie I know. We shouldn't be talking about this because I'm just remaking everyone mad. But it's my favorite.
Gives a shit.
It's my favorite horror movie since like maybe Mulholland Drive. But that's gonna make me sound too like obscure movies because like I like the good stuff. I love The Descent and The Ring and like all that shit. Like it's not like it has to be like weird for like whatever. It's just for some reason I don't even think The Witch. That's the thing that makes me mad about like the people who attack The Witch. Like I get that the setting is a little weird and the language is a little weird, but the story is like super straightforward. The story is not trying to like do like Lynchian time jumps or mind. Like it's a very straightforward story. Like these people were already way out in nature. Then they got into an argument with their own community and then they exiled themselves too far out into nature where you shouldn't go. And out there's some evil stuff lurks. The evil stuff took them down. People go missing. Right. People go missing. The evil stuff took them down, possessed them and undermined them where it could. And then eventually led to their downfall and then may or may not have raised up someone that they turned as an agent of their own. I mean, it's not like a complicated fucking story. So when everyone's like, "Oh, it's so weird," I'm like, "What? Why is it so weird?"
What we should do for people who hate The Witch, give them like a connect the dots and be like, "Fill this out for me, please."
Right? I don't get. I mean, I get hating it. I just don't get hating it because it's like this weird, like hard to figure out thing. It's not. But the point is that I was where you were with the expectation. I'm going to be really interested to see with the Green Knight because my expectation level for the Green Knight is going to be super weird. I mean, right?
Where do you
because I grew up reading and teaching kind of this stuff a little bit, right? Like so like this is one of my absolute favorite stories from that time period. It's one of the few actually spooky ones, right? Like you know how like we all know as horror fans that like the ones who still are capable of being scared, not the ones who pretend like nothing ever scares me and that's boring, but like the ones who still are imaginative enough to like engage with the movie enough where it might give them a jump or something, right? Like when we all know that a lot of the classics, when you're watching like Dracula or Frankenstein or whatever, Wolfman, they're not capable of being scary. You can't even imaginate yourself into being scared by those. Mm-hmm. But you can imaginate yourself being scared by Nosferatu. We all know it. You could be like high at 2 a.m. and like Nosferatu, you went to sleep and left something running, and when you wake up, you see like Nosferatu on like a huge screen, like looming at you. Like that can still like
that's unsettling.
That can still be unsettling.
I've never been like, wow, a handsome Bulgarian's behind me.
Right. Well, right, exactly. That's the point. Well, this is also that. It's one of the few legitimately scary ones. Mm-hmm. Right.
So where do you place expectations for Green Knight yourself?
That's what I mean is that poem is one of the few actually scary poems. So this movie better be fucking good. It should be. I have like 9.5 because that's a masterpiece. That's like telling me you're making a movie out of like the Iliad or Macbeth or something. I mean, that's one of the great works of art of man ever written. So like, right? Like it better be good. It's a smart group. They know what they're doing. They know the material, right? Like,
I like the lead.
Actually, I'm explaining it. I'm explaining it badly. I'm explaining it a little too much literary. Let me explain it like this: to anyone for that Green Knight for that time period was their Hill House. Whoever lived then, when the Hill House came out, however you felt about Hill House coming out as a horror fan, whatever you were told going into what to expect from Hill House, because it comes from this book and this movie tradition. Like when you said Green Knight, that's how it would have sounded to them. They would have heard Hill House. That's how they would have felt about it.
And Hill House rocked.
Right, exactly. It's that level, right? So anything I expect from the Green Knight is any level of expectation I had for Hill House. They're exactly the same to me. Does it make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Sweet. All right. Well, we're gonna explore this.
Yeah, we're gonna explore this, and also we're gonna come back and do. We're gonna watch some Fear Street.
Yeah,
because now you got me interested.
God, I hope it's better than the first one.
I'll scan the first one and aggravate myself, and then I'll watch the part 2 and hope it's better.
There was something that you reminded me of. You reminded me of this TikTok when you were saying they have stuff to create. Mm-hmm. It's not really horror related, but I thought it was hilarious, and I wanted to say it on the podcast. There was a stand-up comic who was talking about. He's like, I think clay is amazing. People make life-size things. He goes, the learning curve. I have a lot of respect for the clay artist. The learning curve's crazy. It's like step 1, make a cylinder. Step 2, Ray Liotta. I thought that was the best joke I'd seen in a long time.
It's fucking awesome, actually.
Step 2, I like how he picked Ray Liotta.
Cylinder. Yeah, exactly. Because Ray Liotta's got a really interesting look. You're going to need a lot of nuance.
Yeah, and he's in that Newark trailer.
Yeah, which is also incredible.
Sweet. Okay.
All right.
Well, let us know what you think of expectations. What films you're
when has that ever impacted you where you felt really let down or really super surprised, or your expectations were affected by something specific you heard about it going into it, or something that was happening in your life while it was happening? Like, my expectation level for The Invisible Man was like that era to me had a creepy vibe to it because the pandemic was just arriving.
Yeah.
And we were not aware that we were sort of aware something was going on, but we didn't know what was going to happen. And so that's a really spooky time period. So like that movie has a very spooky vibe to me, spookier than what's actually in the movie, I'm sure. Like The Invisible Man is probably, it's really good, I'm sure, whatever, but The Invisible Man is always going to be like really spooky to me because it comes from a spooky time.
I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. So let us know what you think of expectations. I'm excited to view every movie we watch now, how I feel going into it.
Right. Yeah, because I'm stoked to see a Green Knight.
And then why or why not do I feel that way? So let us know in an iTunes review, 5 stars preferably. Slide us over, one of those bad dudes.
Subtle.
Yeah. No, it's my expectations of getting reviews is a 10. so don't.
Wow.
Don't bring me to don't harsh my mellow, dudes.
You set a high bar for your ask.
I feel like we'll get 1 review from that. That's all we need.
I feel like we'll get 1, but I feel like it's a coin toss that is going to be either good or terrible because that was really...
Oh, geez, yeah. I feel good.
You did the Fargo oh geez. That should save it.
It's because I just watched Fargo.
You did? Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And what? It exceeded my expectations.
You literally said it just like...
Yeah, no.
William
I as part of Nick's summer movie extravaganza, where I watch 1 movie every day, that Fargo is the last one, and I think tonight.
No wonder you sound like Fargo.
Yeah, I think tonight I'm watching Election, so I'll sound like Matthew Broderick or Reese Witherspoon tomorrow. So
good.
So who knows? Okay, until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Talk to you later next time. Love you guys. Bye.